horse or something like that. It looks like a horse. There are at least two kinds. I'm guessing that this is the village of Lijiashan. And I'm standing above it, so those directions are wrong. One instruction says go to Mr. Lee's house, which is the top. This is the top house. Don't know if it's occupied, but... Okay, I'm now at the guest house that I had a picture of. I don't know if it's Mr. Lee or not. I haven't seen Mr. Lee, but this is the guest house. There may be more than one, but this is the one I had a picture of, and they're entitled to the business. There's the standard grinding mill. It must be used. Looks like it is. Here are older grinding wheels. And it's interesting to see the offset holes. I think that was for pouring more grain down into it. And then these, notice they use stones over the top to be a lid. And this is the kitchen here to the right, to the left, excuse me. It may just be an old barrel, but I think it's interesting that they use slabs of rock for the cover. Certainly a good cover. And here the coal and some kind of an oven perhaps, but a source of fuel. More fuel here. And here a modern washer. Small, but they're all over the world. Runs off the limited amount of power that gets here. Okay, here I am in the walkway outside, which is kind of like a street or sidewalk. Very easy to communicate with your friends. You don't need a telephone. You just shout up the hill because they're not that far away. They're measuring to do some work over on that house. Probably they're going to restore that second floor. You can see something's broken apart, but there are also new fittings. Not the same gargoyles as the other ones, I don't think. But that's the theme. Well, maybe they are the same. No, they're not. This level I'm standing on must belong to these folks because the path going into the village is below me. You can see right here, and that takes us into the village. And I'm just going to roam around in a few minutes. Another grinding stone assembly there. Another over to the right. Probably every family has one. You can see there's even terracing inside the community, although it does not appear to be used right now. Looks like they're going to do a complete restoration on some of that down there. Oh, this carved stone planter. Who knows what it was used for in the past? Maybe a planter, or maybe for feeding or watering horses. There used to be 600 families living in this 550-year-old ancient village, and now there are only 40. So there are probably many abandoned buildings like this. And as you can imagine, probably not a good idea to wander around drunk at night, even if you do know the territory. And this is probably the entrance to one of those homes. You can see that the outside, at least of some of the building, was covered with a thin layer of plastic, and plaster, and perhaps actually painted, or some calligraphy or drawings on it. And probably what once was used as a home is now used for storage. What once were very pretty doors now turning old and falling apart with age. And here are many more places that are abandoned, as well as some we can see look occupied. Here part of the drainage system, as sophisticated as that is. Others are just channels that run out from the house to the street, allowing natural drainage, which they may or may not want like that. This probably was once a sign that said don't enter. But when it was a house, there was a niche for either an icon or maybe a lamp, who knows. These doors would be pretty mounted on someone's wall, like me. With a family that used to live here. Pictures of their children. This machine, believe it or not, may be a thumper. In other words, that vertical portion you see lies flat, and the machine has something on it that spins, and it causes that flapper thing to jump in the air, and with its weight it pats down areas for making pounded homes, maybe, and certainly pounded surface like a floor. Well, it's just used for storage, but there we see again remains from the old family that was here in the way of photos. Lives were lived here. An old radio, old furniture abandoned. There it appears that the walls are just covered with thick cardboard, probably during the summer left wide open. And there it looks like some kind of an urn was left there, abandoned. There the cave goes even deeper in there. These are called kangs, I think. They're stone beds. But you can imagine what this was, a pretty little courtyard. And it had family artifacts for doing whatever they did, including this entryway here, which might have been much prettier with doors perhaps. There might have been an outdoor stove. And here an entryway that went to some other place. There a courtyard, also abandoned it appears, maybe. Imagine how alive this was with 600 families. Probably all along here were additional rooms, maybe for storage, who knows what they were used for. And here the terracing does contain plants. Don't know what they are, but notice that the ground is always prey to erosion and breaking apart, because all it is this soil here, this loose soil, which probably can be compacted but can be eroded and carved very easily. Logical tabletop. Don't know if this is somebody's house or not, so we better be careful in case it is. Here's a little idea of an inner courtyard. That might have been for draining water from this of rain that drained into that tank and gave them, frankly, a fresh of water that they didn't have to haul up the hill somehow. Here we're in another courtyard that was probably formed when it was complete by those buildings, those small buildings. Here's some older cave holes, archways that were filled in. For who knows what reason, just like the buildings in Europe that you see. Now these are quite high, suggesting a more substantial structure than, let's say, the one next to it here. Small grinding wheel. Here, like Europe, you can see that one archway was interrupted in its future, by this building here. A little bit larger room. Notice the ceiling is plastered and the walls are. The white probably made it brighter, more comfortable. There's somebody just stores stuff that someday might have a use. Hard to throw away stuff when you come by it with such difficulty. This looks like it might be for storing this stuff, or even livestock. It could be put in here pretty easily. And you can see how this rock weathers away. Apparently the water's seeped through and just literally worn the rocks. Maybe in the rains it just pours down through those open areas.